Yeah. So, Vidya James, how you going? How you doing, internet? So I've already watched Infinity War like twice. I saw it at 11:40. Well, the show started at 11:40. Well, the show time was 11:40 last night, but the movie itself, because of the previews, didn't actually start until midnight. Didn't get home until 3. Had to get up at 7 to get to work at 8. As soon as I got done at work at 4:30, I went to see a 5 o'clock show to see the movie again. Um, Sorry about that. It was good. It was that good. It was good enough that I had to see it twice. I basically saw it twice in one day because I knew there was going to be a lot of stuff that I missed. This is going to be a spoiler-free review. I will do a more detailed one. I really want to do like a wins and sins kind of thing, like with like 5 things I really like and 5 things I really didn't. Because they're now that I've seen it twice, I'm probably going to see it a third time. Um, Before the weekend is done, I might even see it again, like tomorrow at some point. Well, not maybe not tomorrow, but like Monday or Tuesday. Probably Tuesday since that's the matinee. I will probably see. I will probably hold off on doing my wins and sins until then. But so quick review. Um, Movie 10 years in the making, kind of 6 years because the Infinity War thing wasn't building up until Avengers. So, but this is the culmination of like everything that it's been building towards. This is the big mega event, like how Avengers was the first shared universe thing, and everybody tried to copy it. DC tried to copy it. Freaking Dark Universe, like they didn't even have anything really planned out. But I think was it Fox? Somebody was trying to do the Dark Universe thing with the Mummy and all those monsters and all that, and that failed miserably right out of the gate because everybody wants to have their Avengers without having to put in the legwork, and the flop, the utter catastrophic failure that is the DC extended universe, the freaking Justice League, it boggles the mind. So I guess everybody's expectations were pretty low. Maybe following that because like this is the first event, this is the first big event, big Marvel thing since Justice League came out. So maybe people are like, well, geez, Justice League didn't do so hot, so what can we expect out of the Avengers of the Avengers? Like this is the super mega event. Like I don't think you'll have a movie this big for another couple of years. Like 17 movies basically building up to this. It's insane. And having watched I've watched every movie from Iron Man 1 all the way up to Black Panther and Thor Ragnarok, like having seen all the movies leading up until this point, having read the original comics, Thanos Quest, Infinity War, Infinity Gauntlet, and all that stuff. Um, Marvel superheroes, one of my favorite. Like Marvel superheroes really screwed me up between the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Marvel Comics Universe, and the Marvel Superheroes Capcom game. There's like three different sets of colors. So every time I see Thanos using a specific gem, I'm like, that's not the gem I thought it would be. And I keep hearing the announcer from like from Marvel Superheroes or even Thanos himself from the Marvel vs. Capcom games, just like power, reality, space. Like anytime he didn't actually do that in the movie, but like it was because I'm such a gaming nerd. That's why, and that's probably one of the big reasons I'm really talking about this on my channel. But it's impossible. Consider gaming shit on my. It's impossible to be a nerd or a geek of any stripe and not talk about Infinity War simply because of how big it is, and especially for gamers, how big the Marvel vs. Capcom series was until Capcom kind of shit the bed with that. But as far as this movie goes, I was prepared as I possibly could have been, and I wasn't prepared. I was not prepared for where that movie was gonna go. Um, Not without going into too many details. So, by the way, this is a exclusive shit you can get at Regal, but made sure to get it out. It was either this or the popcorn tub, and I was not eating that much popcorn. But it was a fantastic movie. Uh, Long one, 2 hours long, and there's a lot of jumping around. I mean, but this is a huge cast. So I went to this as blank as possible. Unfortunately, I didn't get any spoilers that I didn't already know from just reading the comics. Um, Although that being said, the comics still takes a lot of liberties compared to the comics. So Marvel's pretty good about that. They give nods to the comics without following what happens verbatim. But as far as Infinity Wars goes, it's a fantastic movie. It really did build. It actually, to be perfectly honest, I've seen a lot more hype for the Solo movie, which I'm not interested in. Star Wars shit the bed with Last Jedi, so I'm over that. I was never a Star Wars fan to begin with, and I sure as fuck ain't gonna be now. Fuck the Last Jedi, but yeah, like I've seen more advertising for that, and it opened like the same weekend. It's like they wanted Star Wars to be the really big thing, but you kind of had it come out the same weekend as Infinity Wars. Well, maybe that was because Robert Downey Jr. requested it. It was definitely worth watching. Worth watching more than once, I think. It's there's since there's so many characters and so many things going on. It bears watching more than once. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody's watched, like when the first Avengers came out. We weren't prepared for something that nothing like that had ever been attempted before, and now many people have tried it since. And I would say no one's really succeeded at Avengerizing their properties. I mean, it's kind of sad that Sony tried to do it with Spider-Man and only Spider-Man, and they're still trying to do it with Venom. DC just keeps chugging along with their crap. They're this thing that's already crashed and burned, and they're still towing the wreckage and calling it a ship. It's like, what? It's insane. Um, yeah, this is if the I guess the best way to put it, how viewing experience of seeing this movie is the spectacle and awe that that you may have gotten when you first saw the first Avengers movie, when you saw those like the original six, coming together. Like, well, not so much the original six, but like just specifically Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, and Thor, who had their own movies, and then they came together in the movie for the first time. Like, the first time we saw all these characters together, and then you had Black Widow, Nick Fury, and Hawkeye coming onto the scene to round out the cast, but they're not major players compared to the big four, those big four. But seeing them all on the screen together, like the spectacle of that, like, holy shit, this is really happening, this is a thing, and it's done right. Like, that's what you're gonna be in for on a larger scale when you go into Infinity War. It's gonna be like, holy shit, this thing that we knew was coming has come to fruition, and given how how some comic books and I think Marvel fatigue is something that probably should be addressed. Given that's actually a thing too. It's very easy for people to think, like, for people to have their expectations tempered, saying like, it's just going to be another Marvel movie. It's not just another Marvel movie. This goes places. Goes places that even if you've read the comics or if you've not read the comics, just walking into this, I think even if this is the first and only Marvel movie you've seen, which is highly unlikely at this point, but even if Infinity War was the first Marvel movie you ever seen, you'd still be in for a good time, a very good time, because there's not a lot of really detailed jokes or anything like that you wouldn't be certain that you couldn't get if you didn't. Like, there's name dropping in some place. There's name dropping, but that's about it. There is one character cameo who only showed up. There is a character cameo that shows up, I think, about midway through the movie. And if you've seen the previous movie he was in, you'd be like, oh, that's what happened to him. That's basically it. Even if you didn't know who he was, I'm pretty sure some of you will be able to connect the dots. He explains who he is when he does show up. Some of y'all know exactly who I'm talking about. It's a good enough movie on its. I think I'll try to when I watch it the third time, I'll try to put myself in the mindset of somebody who's never ever watched any of the previous Marvel movies. The first time I saw it as somebody saw it as a fan, just going into this for the first time, just to be like, oh wow, let me just go into this and see this and like enjoy it as somebody. I went for the RPX thing, and then the second time I watched it, right after work today, it would just let me absorb the audience reaction. I was paying attention a lot more because I don't think I've seen there was a lot of dead silence. I've heard a lot of sniffling, crying in certain scenes. One scene in particular at the very very end, and a lot of you know exactly which one I'm talking about. a lot of laughs because Marvel's still really good at that. A lot of people would complain I think the Last Jedi had that complaint specifically, that there was way too much humor being thrown in at points where it didn't work. Because it didn't work because that's not what Star Wars is. Star Wars has never been a movie, never been a series where even in tense situations or situations in general, people would throw in humor. There's just jokes, and Marvel movies, it works. The jokes work because the characters work. The comedy comes as a result of the characters, not just somebody going, oh, I have a message for your mother, right? Like stupid shit like that. Like there's comedy that only Drax can do. There's comedy that only the Mantis can do. Peter Quill, Iron Man. There's just the way the characters play off of each other, which is really great characterization and great acting. That's what makes it funny, and that's why it works for Marvel. It's not going to work in very many other places. It didn't work. The reason why it seemed really weird in the DC EU, especially in Justice League, is because that's not how that series of movies was going. While it might have made Justice League bearable for some people, it did feel jarring because going through the last three movies, especially Man of Steel, it's just a depressing. Oh no, I've got to be the savior, but everybody hates me, and then all of a sudden he's a beacon of hope, and no, that didn't work. You didn't earn that beacon of hope thing there, Superman. But the funny parts were funny because I think Marvel understands there needs to be a balance between the levity and the drama. I think the funny part, you get to enjoy the funny parts, and that's what makes the drama hit harder. You have to have a balance, which is basically the theme of the movie. I think that works. Thanos is a fantastic villain. They took him places where I wasn't expecting to go. He's not the same character. Thanos is Thanos. He's not the same character. And it's Thanos, not Thanos. He's not the same character that he is in the comics. I think that's a good thing because these Marvel comics are a little bit more contemporary because let's just be honest, like the Infinity War storyline is old, and villains we don't accept villains the way they are. We don't accept villains today like the way they were in previous comics, where they would, like, I think Incredibles does, where they monologue so much, just like, I am mighty, and what's his name, Rowan the Accuser from the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and villains aren't like that. People don't really identify with characters like that. Those were caricatures of people. It worked for Saturday morning cartoons, but not for dramatic villains and good characterization. And Thanos has that. Josh Brolin really brings his A game when it comes to that, and I got to really give props. You'll probably hear a lot of people say that, but the CG and the face rigging especially. Normally the CG can be pretty bad, but it's very clear that they put a lot of work into Thanos in his CG, and that's exactly how it should have been, because he's such an important character, and he emotes a lot. It's just simple twitches. There's a I'll say that little thing there for when I do a spoiler review. But there's a lot of moments in the movies where just his facial expressions convey a lot, and that means something. Like Marvel understands where there needs to be levity and how that levity needs to come about. The levity comes about naturally because of just how some of the characters act, and how other characters who are either familiar with them or not familiar with them. And there's a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of that in this movie, where you'll have characters that know each other or know of each other, and they play off each other that way, and then you'll have characters that we've known for a long time that are now meeting for the first time, and the sparks that fly, just, not romantically, but like the conflict of personalities just breeds more and more comedy, but it's a manageable amount, because the straits are very dire. But it's still a Marvel movie, and that's what's good about it. We come to expect this from Marvel movies because that's their style. They're comic book movies, and this is still very much a comic book movie. It's fun. It's fun in a lot of ways. There's a lot of action, and it's really, really, really dramatic. It's just a phenomenal experience. You owe it to yourself to see this if you're even the slightest bit interested. Do it sooner rather than later. I'm Victor James. I'm just playing. I will see you in the next time.